All right, college basketball season's over, so let's turn the page. We have your way too early top 5 for next season, when some programs will be spending well over $10 million on their roster. There are transfer portal rankings and there are recruiting rankings. No surprise that John Shire has the #1 ranked recruiting class after having 3 potential one-and-done top 10 picks this season, led by Cooper Flagg. Houston is second, followed by UConn and Coach Cal's Arkansas Razorbacks. So let's get Kyle Boone in here, who has his way too early top 5. And Mike O'Donnell is not aware of how he's ranking the team. So this is going to be an instant reaction from Mike. Don't hold back, Mike. If you completely disagree, let's tear Kyle to the ground here. Let's start at number 5. And I like this pick. Very intriguing. You've got BYU, Kyle. Kevin Young got into the Sweet 16, and now they bring in the top recruit in the country.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the basis for having BYU as a top 5 team. I considered Florida at number 5. I briefly considered Kentucky, and this could change, but BYU at number 5 makes sense for me. A.J. Debonsa coming in for BYU, the #1 recruit in all of high school basketball. Kevin Young, in his first year at BYU, really rallied that team in a big way. They're really fun to watch. They run a modern tempo style offense. They could bring several players who were productive this season back for next season. They also have 2 other top 100 recruits joining Debonsa next season. So I think they'll have some continuity. They'll have some guys who will possibly return, and then they'll probably get some guys out of the portal as well. So BYU at number 5 for me in the way too early top 25.
I don't hate that, Mr. Hassel. I know you want me to just absolutely roast Kyle Boone. I don't hate it, but I'm cautious on that because I think that ranking, because it means so much, obviously, at this time of the year, is really kind of depending on if Richie Saunders comes back. Whether or not he almost played himself into a first-round draft pick, and he still may, depending on what he does during the summer and how he works out with teams, what he does from the NBA draft perspective. So if Richie Saunders is back, paired with everybody that Kyle Boone just talked about, especially A.J. Debonsa, I can absolutely understand that. But there's a little bit of an asterisk there about a top 5 because I think Richie Saunders matters coming back in that context.
And we know that Demon is declaring for the NBA draft. Kyle has him as a top 10 projected pick, but that was 100% expected. Let's go to the #4 ranked team in Kyle Boone's rankings for next season, UConn. Why do you think Dan Hurley's team is going to return to where they had been the previous couple seasons?
Yeah, the UConn Huskies, and MOD's giving me an eye roll here, so I can't wait to hear his thoughts. They're bringing back some players from this last season's team that I think will give UConn some continuity. Solo Ball is coming back. Taurus Reed is coming back. Jalen Stewart, who I think is primed to make a league, is also coming back. And I think when you add all those pieces together, you add Dan Hurley, who is the best coach in the bleeping sport, according to Dan Hurley. I think they're going to have a team that is going to compete at the highest level in the Big East. They're already hitting the transfer portal hard. They've added Silas DeMary from Georgia, adding to their backcourt. They've got a 5-star in Braylon Mullins coming in. So I think they're going to have a lot of experience on this roster. They're going to hit the transfer portal hard, and probably I think Hurley is very motivated after what happened this season, falling short of a potential three-peat to get back to the top of the mountain.
I really do not want to be someone who gives Dan Hurley bulletin board material at all because, well, first of all, he could care less of what I think, but that does seem a little high. From UConn's perspective. Now 1, 2, and 3, I'm very nervous and excited because I'm hoping to roast Kyle Boone here a little bit because I have plenty of thoughts on a couple teams that he hasn't mentioned that I kind of had in that 4 and 5 range, particularly a team in the Big Ten. But UConn, Dan Hurley, from a recruiting standpoint, whether it's high school or in the portal, the role pieces he has coming back, I think they are going to miss Liam McNeely dearly. I don't know if they'll have a player like that on that roster, but I don't know. I think I could get behind the BYU pick at 5 more than I can the UConn pick at 4.
So Mike mentioned the Big Ten. There is a Big Ten team at number 3, Kyle, and it's the Purdue Boilermakers. Are they bringing in another like 7'7" guy, or just the fact that they're bringing almost everybody back?
Yeah, they do have a big man who is coming back this next season in Trey Kaufman-Wren. They're also adding Daniel Jacobson, who was injured this season. And, oh, by the way, they're bringing back, presumably, Braden Smith, who was an All-American this season. He was fabulous, one of the best players in college basketball. And, you know, really over the second half of the season, I think Purdue had 2 top 10 players in college basketball. Not only Braden Smith, but Kaufman-Wren was sensational down the stretch for Purdue. If they bring both of those guys back, you add Matt Painter, who I think is one of the best coaches in college basketball. The tactician and the way that he can scheme up his team to success. I think they'll be the overwhelming favorite to win the Big Ten next season, and I think they'll be worthy of a potential top 3 preseason ranking in college basketball.
Well, I'm very excited to emphatically agree with Kyle Boone here. He is absolutely spot on. I like how Kyle has to do all this work and I just have to respond. This is great. I hope we can do this more. I agree with everything that Kyle said. More importantly, I think we need to appreciate Purdue, their system. Players, the majority of their players stay. The majority of their players get better. And Matt Painter continues to coach at an extremely high level. Matt Painter, Braden Smith, this is a Final Four team. This whole roster comes back, and they bring in Oscar Clough as well, transfer. This is an elite veteran club that I would be happy saying that this is no question a Final Four team. I emphatically agree with that preseason pick at number 3.
We saw the recruiting rankings coming into the segment with Duke number 1. They're losing 3 one-and-dones who might be lottery picks, might even be top 10 picks, including Cooper Flagg, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick. How are they going to fill those holes and become one of the best teams in the country next year, Kyle?
Yeah, Duke is at number 2 in my preseason rankings, and it's in part because the high school recruiting class they have coming in Cam Boozer and the Boozer twins for a top 3 recruiting class. They also have 4 other top 25 recruits coming in. They're going to be young, they're going to be inexperienced, but I believe after this run in the Final Four that ended with a shocking loss to Houston, John Shire and that coaching staff is going to be very motivated to hit the transfer portal with guys who are experienced, have size, have length, can shoot the basketball. And, you know, I still think that Duke probably on paper had the best team in total in college basketball this season. It didn't amount to a national championship. They're probably going to have to tweak some things in terms of their roster building, but you add the Boozer twins and Cameron, who's the number 3 player in this class. I really think that they could end up being one of the best teams in college basketball again next season.
I think a lot of people have Duke on that second spot. I would probably I would keep them in the top 5 range, just based purely on potential. But I think, you know, what Kyle is talking about, especially with the Boozer twins, these guys, they're off the charts good. I mean, off the charts good. I don't think they're Cooper Flagg good, but when you've got, there are decisions that need to be made at Duke. I mean, in Tyrese Proctor, Isaiah Evans, Caleb Foster. I mean, we got to see what those guys are going to do. If those guys come back, plus the front court, along with Boozer and Malik Brown, that is absolutely a preseason top 5 team. The inexperience early could catch them, because I don't know if there is a player quite like, I don't know if there's a Batman and Robin complementary like Cooper Flagg, Con Knippel, of just guys that understand how to get buckets. I think you've got a lot of elite talent and phenomenal role players and talent that's going to get better throughout the course of the year. But I wouldn't be surprised if Duke didn't get off to a hot start, but then figured it out completely come ACC play.
All right, Mike, you don't know the rankings here, so I'm just going to let you guess. Who do you think Kyle has number 1?
I hope it's Houston, because that would be the really, really smart thing.
It's Houston, baby.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Same wavelength, baby. Yeah, they're losing 2 starters, obviously, in Jaywan Roberts, LJ Cryer. They could lose some pieces to the portal, but MOD and I are on the same page with Houston. This is a developmental factory for the Cougars and Kelvin Sampson. They're going to possibly bring back Milos Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, and JoJo Tugler. All those guys are eligible to return. They have a top 5 recruiting class incoming, led by a 5-star in Chris Sinak. And, Houston has never really recruited at the top of college basketball, but the way that Kelvin Sampson has operated at such a high level the last few years, that profile of that program has changed in a real way. And yes, they ended up losing the national championship game, but Houston is on the radar right now as the top 5 program in college basketball. Recruits are taking notice. I think if they're going to hit the transfer portal and fill some holes, players in the portal will take notice. So yeah, I'm all in on Houston. I have them as the preseason #1 team right now.
Sampson just doesn't take anybody. It's got to be a certain type of a player with a specific attitude. But if those 3 guys come back, if Tugler, Sharp, and Uzan come back, that's at worst a top 5 trio in college basketball. Kyle mentioned something very important. It's a developmental factory. All 3 of those guys have gotten better over the course of their Houston careers, especially Uzan, maybe the most improved player in the country. Those guys are going to be even better next season than they were this season. Even as good as they were, that's just what Houston's culture is. I am all in on that preseason #1 pick.
Our studios are in Florida. I can hear Gator fans from the set. Like, where are we? Kyle, where is Florida after winning the national championship?
Unranked. They're outside the top 5. I actually had them at I had them at number 5. I changed my pick. Tito talked me into it. I would have them at number 6. And, there's some question marks, obviously, around this Florida team. They're probably going to lose Walter Clayton Jr. They're losing Elijah Martin. They're losing Will Richards. So their backcourt's gone, right? Their front court could all return. Alex Condon, Thomas Hawk, that team, the size of that team returning, that would be a good foundation. But for now, we're just going to put a pin in it. They have to fill some holes in this offseason. Todd Golden's shown that he can do that through the transfer portal. But we'll see. It's very, very early in the preseason. Obviously, the season just ended yesterday.
All right, Mike O'Donnell and Kyle Boone with us here on CBS Sports HQ as Kyle ranks his way too early top 5 that does not include the champions from Gainesville. Eye on College Basketball podcast, full recap of last night's game with Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish, and pretty soon they're going to be looking ahead into a really busy offseason.